Time for a ramble tonight. So, in the midst of me being in the middle of an abbreviated summer semester and having to work very hard at it to, maintain my 4.0, and also working from home, after making the conversion for the coronavirus to being a work from home type person. I found time somehow yesterday to make some art. And because of all of the news of the death of George Floyd and all the protests and just all of the different clips of protesting and police brutality and all that, I decided, you know what? He's the man of the hour. Might as well just start with him. So it'd been a while since I busted out my art table, so I just did a sketch of George Floyd and took a picture of it, put it out on social media, did a pretty good process video of, start to finish, pretty much sped up just so that people who like that kind of stuff can see it that way. But, yeah. So, I'd say it's pretty good for me, but one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this Ramble video is not just, here, look at my art. I wanted to talk about George Floyd's hairline, because in order to do a proper sketch of him, I went online, looked to see if I could find different pictures of him. I think I found 6, and finding the last 3 was so tough. I was like, you know what? There's just not a lot of pictures that have come out of him that don't have anything to do with how he died, that family have put up out there in the world. So I'll just go by these 6, and one was the most prominent. It's him in a gray sweater. It's a very nice sweater. And while I was sketching him and paying attention to the rest of the photos out there of him, and also the other art that people have already done with murals and whatnot, I can tell that people are pretty much using just this one photo of him in a gray sweater to create all of the other murals that I've seen. It's basically the best picture of him. And if you Google it, you'll find it. He looks pretty good in that photo, and it looks like he's taking a selfie of himself like this. You can tell by the way that his shoulders pitched slightly and just where the camera would have had to been to catch it. He took a selfie of him on a good day, but based on the other pictures that I've seen of him over a span of however long they were taken, I make an inference that this was a look that he had carried for a long time in his life. I don't know how many years, but it looked like pretty much his adult life. That's what he looked like. And his hair was lined out pretty good, his hairline, sharp. He looked good in that picture. And I don't know that he was thinking, hey, let's take a picture that looks so good that this will be the one that my family decides to share if I ever get, famous for being killed by cops. That's probably not what was going through his mind. He was probably thinking, this will look good on my Facebook, maybe. This will look good to send to my family. I feel particularly like I look my best right now, so let's just stop and take a picture of myself. And what I gather from that is that that was the style he liked. You know, that was him in that moment. And so I was looking at a different forum, and I'm not going to out the person who said this, but in that forum, somebody I know said that he was having particular problems dealing with this situation, because it brings up feelings, and for him, it brought up feelings because he is of mixed descent, and when he was in middle school, rather than just stick with his haircut that his adoptive parents gave him all the time, he had his hair twisted in an ethnic way. And so, he had rows in his head. And his adoptive parents didn't like it. And they questioned him. They said, "Do you want to grow up a thug?" And so when he saw the president using the word thug, that's what it took him back to, was that moment where his own adopted parents were not happy with him expressing his own ethnicity. So it got me to thinking about George Floyd's hairline that I had just spent a little bit of time researching and sketching, and how it was so sharp in that picture, and how all the photos that I found in order to do my study of him were pretty much the same haircut, which is not something that that shows off your ethnicity. It's not something that he could use a hair pick and pick out and have a fro. It was pretty short to the head, sharp, lined out. Just, he looked respectable in the eyes of my culture, the white culture. He looked like a person that was not trying to play up any bit of his ethnicity at all. And I wonder if George Floyd had a thought in his head ever in his life. Like, I don't want to look any other way than this haircut, because this is the safest haircut I could have. This is the one that's presentable, the one that people want to see, the one that looks sharp and clean and doesn't say anything except for, this is a person who's got his shit together and is sharp, clean cut, and a good guy, And George Floyd was on the darker side of black in America when you consider, I mean, he was not like African midnight black, but he was on the darker side because, any bit of African in your blood and people will call you black in America, So for him, it was probably tough for him to overcome his own blackness, and so he did little things like keep his hair cut nice and clean cut. Don't try to express your ethnicity, or else, you might end up like Rodney King. He was old enough to remember Rodney King like me. Don't draw attention to yourself. You know? Don't become one of those statistics. I wonder if his mom made him cut his hair in a similar way, thinking, I don't want my son to die, at the hands of police. I know I grew up in Long Beach, California, and my mother, crazy as she was, she got it right by never letting me own a Dodgers cap. She wouldn't let any of her kids wear red or blue. She was scared. And just take that and magnify it like times 1,000. And that might have been what his mother was thinking. All this just from a haircut. And here I am, sheltering in my house from not wanting to get the Rona, and think I need a haircut.